Alright guys, check it out. Today we're on a 2017 Africa Twin. The reason being, I need to find me a new bike. My 2016 Suzuki 1000 that I go to work and back on every day has now got 93,000 miles. I figured it's time to get rid of it, get something new, and I wanted something I can ride to work and back and also go off-roading. If you don't know, I grew up riding motocross, so I love the dirt. So this bike is one of my choices. I'm also looking at the KTM Super Adventure 1290R. Obviously, it's a little bit in a different league because it's a 1300. But this is a great bike too. Great value. You can find these all over the place for the high 9,000s. And this is a buddy of mine. I told him I was looking for one, or looking at him. He goes, well, I have one. I didn't even know he had one. And he goes, just take it, ride it as long as you want. He's a super generous guy. I love him. John Day, thank you. And so we're gonna take this thing for a spin today. I need to learn if it's pleasing to me in a lot of different ways. I want to make sure that it feels good at highway speed, because I do a lot of highway, going to work and back every day. I want to make sure it's stable. I want to make sure it runs cool. I want to see how it corners. It's got a 21-inch front wheel and an 18-inch back, so I want to see how it handles and turns. That concerns me a little bit. And just the overall package, how it feels, you know, sitting on the bike, you know, power delivery, all that. Now, what I want to do is just kind of show you guys what he's done to the bike, because that will change the rider experience. A big deal is obviously tires. And he's got on here, he's got the Metzler Carews, which to me looks like a really nice tire. Kind of like, you know, 50-50, maybe a little more dirt than street, I don't know. But he's got the Metzler Carews. The tire pressures he's running, he's got 40, what do you have in the front? 46 in the front, 43 in the back. That seems high. I think the back's normal. I think the front should be like more like 36. But I'm not going to change it. I'm just going to run it the way he runs it. He's got an aftermarket seat, which I think looks way better than stock. You know, kind of takes away that slope the bike comes with. I don't like the way the seat comes down and goes up. It's like, huh? And then he does have bar risers on here. Looks like a 1-inch riser. I hear a lot of people like to put that on the bike, especially when you're standing up. So other than that, you know, the rider experience should be the same for everybody. Let's zip up our jacket here. It's already hot out, guys. Southern California. This is Lake Matthews for you local people. Let's ride. Now, before we roll, real quick, I want to show you guys. Hopefully you can see this on the dash. See these 3 lines? That's traction control. That's maximum traction control right there. Now, if you come over here, see that there's a switch right here. If I click it, 1 click, 1 line less, 1 more click, minimum traction control. If I pull it in and hold it, it turns it off. Awesome. I already have ABS off. There's an ABS thing here. I don't need ABS. I never use ABS. Now we have maximum power, total control over the bike. Let's roll. Now this is a cool road right here, because look at these turns, man. Let's see how this thing corners. Now this isn't my bike, my first time on it, so I'm not going to get all aggro. I'm just going to motor along at a decent rate. Wow, feels really good. What? Very good, very good. Woohoo! Very impressive. I'm really surprised. Very surprised. I mean, I thought with a 21-inch wheel, you're gonna feel, I've watched videos on some guys that go into a turn and they feel the bike dipping when it reaches a certain point. I didn't feel that at all. I mean, it actually felt like the front end and the back end stayed parallel and just flowed with the turns. I could take this on any, obviously I'm gonna take more turns coming up, but from that little bit I did right there, I think this bike's excellent in the corners. Comes another bike. It's like a little 500 or something, small bore. Yep, look at that little thing. 250. Wow. Let's figure out what this motor's made of, because the one thing that bothers me the most on this bike, and I hear it a lot too, is the motor just doesn't have enough grunt. G-R-U-N-T. And I have to agree. I like a lot of power. Not saying I need to have a 1290 with 160 horses, but this thing could definitely use some extra ponies. So I guess to do that, I've got the traction control turned off. Let's see how fast I can get to 80 miles an hour. Not great, not brutal, nothing, definitely no wow factor in the engine on this. And this thing just kind of, there's nothing to surprise you with this thing. Now it's very usable power for a lot of people, and it's probably great power for riding off-road. But when you think about it, when I ride off-road, I like to lighten up my front end going over obstacles, and this thing here, you know, with that kind of a motor, it's probably not going to allow me to do that. And I also hear that this bike is kind of front end heavy, so things to think about. Let me see if I can even wheelie this bad boy, just kind of show you guys, you know, an example of how the power delivers, because you can't tell by not riding it. I mean, you can get it up, but it's a lot of work. It's not like a KTM 1290 where you're just cranking the throttle and things coming up automatically. But that's the first wheelie I've popped in how many years too. But yeah, you can tell the motor is just soft. It's as simple as that. I think this bike would be really good for beginner riders, and all the way up to really seasoned riders. They're just going to want to do some modifications to the engine to make it run better. I'm going to talk about that more in a minute. Right now, let's enjoy some twisties and see how she performs. Somebody in front of me. Let me pull over and let that car get going. In the meantime, so yeah, like the engine. The engine comes with a lot of restrictions, which is not good, man. It's got a catalytic converter. It's got a big, heavy exhaust that's not pushing air the best it could. The air filter is probably not the greatest. So to get the most out of an engine, you gotta get that thing breathing. And the problem too is the ECU on this has restrictions. You know, it's running really lean to meet smog regulations. All right, I'll be back with that in a minute. I'm riding. This road is awesome. Guys, I have to tell you, this bike corners so good. I mean, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Wow. I mean, for a 21-inch front wheel, it's phenomenal. I heard Ryan over at Fort 9 on the YouTube channel, and he's like, he didn't like the front end at all in the turns. He said it didn't react quick enough. It kind of like would fall into the turns. I'm like, I'm not feeling any of that on this bike. May have been his tire, I don't know, but the 21-inch front, 18-inch rear in the corners, you will not have a problem. It's excellent. I give it a 10. And I'm really happy about that, because if it didn't perform well in corners, that could deter me from getting this bike. So back to the motor, it's got all kinds of restrictions. The ECU is restricted. It's not adjustable. So even when you put on a slip-on, that custom air filter, or a full exhaust, you gotta change your ECU, which is basically the computer, to match it. Otherwise your bike might run slower, because you've just thrown off all the all the fuel and air mixtures, and the ECU doesn't know what to do. But I think I have remedies that if I get this bike, I'm going to jump on that like first thing. So there's two options that I know of right now as far as the ECU goes to really make your bike run better. And you got to do it in conjunction with a high quality air filter, like a Sprint model, and a full exhaust. You got to get rid of that catalytic converter and get an exhaust that's going to perform and do its best. Then once you have a filter and exhaust, you can put on the Rapid Bike Evo. It's an ECU. It completely replaces the stock unit, and it remaps your bike for all conditions, all throttle positions, all RPMs. You don't have to get it custom tuned. You plug it in yourself and you just ride the bike for about 100 miles. So it's reading everything you do, and it's building its own custom map. A lot of the sport bike racing teams use it, and these guys are getting like 20 horsepower out of a 1000cc engine, and that's pretty big, 20 horsepower. Now, I did read where a guy on an Africa Twin got an extra 10 horsepower out of his bike. I guess the rapid bike makes the bike really perform well on initial acceleration, and you know, it's pretty soft stock, so it'll pick that up. So for 455 bucks thereabouts, you get a smart computer for your bike that'll tune it perfectly, and it also comes with auto shifter, so you don't have to pull in your clutch every time you want to. Now, another option that I would consider for this bike is getting a Power Commander tuner, and I have a local guy that's an authorized shop for tuning them. He's got a dyno room and everything. He spends like over an hour dialing your bike and just making huge power differences. A human being actually doing the work and making sure everything's perfect versus relying on the ECU itself. Now, that is obviously a bit more money. You're looking at about $1,400 for the tuner and the tune itself. But I mean, if it makes a big difference, that's $1,400 well spent in my book. I would do it in a heartbeat. So I don't know yet. I don't know which way I want to go yet. If you guys know my channel, a lot of it's about getting sponsored deals from these different companies, and maybe it depends on which company wants to work with me and make some cool videos on how to make this bike run its best. Now, another thing you should be concerned about when getting a bike like this, like vibration or like a hum in the foot pegs and your seats. I gotta tell you, man, right now this thing is butter smooth. This bike is like a Cadillac, man. I like it. Now let's talk about the dash just briefly. It's kind of small compared to like the KTM 1290, which has got like a big 6.5-inch screen or something like that. It's a pretty small dash, especially when you want to look down here at all the different little doodads, but you usually look at those when you're not riding, so that's not very important to me. It's got all these idiot lights over here that pop up. Here you've got your miles per hour, and that to me is kind of like the most important, you know, especially when you're riding and you need to be able to see something quick and easy. I do like the shape of the dash. It's got a great looking cockpit, so that's a big plus. I do like that. A lot of people complain about the location of the blinker switch. They think it should be up here where the horn is. I like it down here. I think it's more of a natural, it's easier to get to with your thumb. Boom, right there, there's your blinker. See? I like the size of the blinker lights too, and the shape. Look at those lights. That's cool. I like those. Now, this bike, I forgot to mention, it has a taller windscreen than stock, so the wind buffeting I'm going to get is going to be different. It's going to be less. This screen here, from the very bottom of the screen up, is 21 inches. I don't know what stock is because I don't have it, but I like it. It's good. All right, so let's talk about the hand controls. This bike does have a cable throttle. It's not throttled by wire, which means you don't have a cruise control. I do think is a big deal on an adventure bike. So my buddy does have this doohickey on here that works okay. It seems to slip a little bit, and the tension on the throttle does feel a little stiff. So after a while you might start to feel that. And then over here you do have a cable clutch instead of hydraulic, which it feels good, man. Honda has always had very smooth buttery clutches. I have no problem with that. I can totally live with both of these being cable driven. Not a big deal. I have ABS turned off. If you just press and hold this button here, you can see the light. I want to test the brakes because braking is important too, right? I want to make sure I can skid the back end. Oh yeah. Yeah, the back brake feels great, dude. Got no problem with the back brake. Let's do the front brake. Oh yeah, this thing has got plenty of braking power. It doesn't have Brembo calipers, it's got Nissan calipers, but you know what, they work phenomenal, no complaints there. This bike is just a great overall package. Overall, I mean, if it had 110, 120, shit, I don't know, 130 horsepower, this would be the bike to go for. I mean, it is a Honda. Think about that. I mean, reliability, trust. You can trust this bike to get you anywhere you want to go, any distance, for any amount of days, in any weather riding conditions. This thing is going to be a champ. And that's important too with an adventure bike, right? Reliability and trust. And you can always trust the Honda brand. Their bikes are so well made with not just the engineering, but the machining of the plastics, the quality of the bolts, how everything fits together. I mean, Honda's always been known for having a premium quality bike from head to toe. Now I'm kind of curious about this traction control, and right now I have it turned off. But if I press in the lever right here in the front, there's a little lever right there. If I press it in and hold it, it turns it on to full capacity. You see there's 3 bars right there. If I click the lever once, oh shit, it turned off. All right, let's turn it back on. Okay, down at level 2, level 1, which is the least amount of traction control. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on level 3, and I'm going to gas it as hard as I can, and I want to see what happens. Let's do it. Let's do first gear. Wow, look at that. Yeah, it totally killed the power of the engine pretty erratically. I mean, I guess if you're in a traction control situation, you're not going to be riding like I just did. You're not going to be like, Brad, you're going to be like more ginger, right? So it's not really an accurate test, but it's just to see if it works. Let's go down to level 2 by pressing the lever one time. That wasn't very good. Let's do first gear like before. Yeah, it's definitely doing something. The electronics on this bike are really basic, which I kind of like that idea, because I'm not a big electronics rider. I like to control the bike myself. I've never had a bike think for me, and I think that's just like, no man, no, I'm gonna do it myself. So, but it's just got traction control, 3 levels, and it's got ABS that you can turn off. So it's really basic, and I like that. And you know, it doesn't have all these different ride modes and blah blah blah. It's like, sometimes that stuff's just too much. Another thing that's great about this bike is it doesn't melt your butt, your legs. It runs cool, and a lot of that's because it is a parallel twin, which means there's 2 cylinders in the front, and they're both getting equal amounts of air, keeping things nice and cool. Versus on the KTMs, where they've got the V-twin, you've got a cylinder underneath your butt and causing all kinds of heat issues. That's my biggest concern about the KTM 1290, is the heat. You know, when you ride all year round, especially in summer out here in Southern California, you definitely want a bike that's going to stay cool underneath your butt. I saw this off-road area right by my house. I knew it was here, I just kind of forgot about it, and I'm like, dude, we're going to do this and see what this thing's made of in the dirt. Gotta do it, right? And I can tell already, obviously it's just way too soft. Even on this road, it's got like little chattery bumps, and every time it hits those chattery bumps, you can feel the front end just kind of bouncing around, like bing 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 bing. That's not good. Whew. Let's take it on some little fire road style stuff here. But the weight of the bike is very manageable. Like I said, the weight is very low on this bike, so it feels light. I like the delivery of the power. It's not like super abrupt. Very manageable. Fuck no. Oh, I didn't realize there was a turn there. Jesus. Dude, back it down, bro. These tires just save my ass, people. Oh. And the Nissan brakes. Fuck. That would have been bad. I got my heart racing. Okay, I'm just gonna cool it. There's some bumps up here I want to feel the back end on and the front end and see how she does. It's right here, it's like really bumpy. Yeah, didn't feel good. Way too soft and spongy. A revalve on this thing will do wonders. Alright, that's enough dirt. That was too close for comfort. Whew. What else about this thing? Oh, alright, let's talk about suspension. For the street, I can tell you right now, look at that. Look how soft that is. That's too soft. I think even for street, I mean, you can get by with it and you'll be fine. But if you want to do heavy braking and the optimum front end cornering, it should be a little bit stiffer. You could try dialing it in with the clickers. It does have rebound and compression front and rear. And then the rear, obviously you can set the preload, which is how much the bike drops when you sit on it. But I would probably take this in, pull off the forks and the shock, and I would take it into my buddy. My buddy owns Shock Therapy. The guy's been around for years. He knows this stuff. He's in Elsinore now, Elsinore, California. And I can get this thing completely revalved, which is ideal. And a matter of fact, I hear people are even changing out the springs in the front because it's very, very soft in the initial stroke. I mean, that springs would help that too, and they're relative. I think they're like $100. I mean, no brainer, right? So yeah, but the rear end on the street, you know, I mean, you don't challenge a rear end on a street bike much, unlike in the dirt. But I can tell you jump up and down on it. Yeah, it's pretty soft. I think overall, for street and dirt, you're gonna want a stiffer back end, because you're gonna be going through, you know, dips and stuff off-road, and the thing's just gonna be wallowing and bottoming out and just, you know, making you work that much harder to ride it and be smooth. I'm okay with this. This has got Showa, however you want to say it. Years and years experience on Hondas, on the dirt bikes I used to have. I ran a lot of Showa. So it's fine. I mean, if it's good enough for a motocross bike, it's definitely good enough for an adventure bike. But I can tell that I'm going to enjoy being an adventure bike owner. I can feel it in my bones, knowing that I can ride this to work and back all week long, and then if I want to buzz off-road, here's a guy on a horse. Don't want to disturb him. Nice looking horse. So I like the sound of the motor on this. Aside from the exhaust, hear kind of like that whine. I like that. It's cool. Reminds me of a muscle car that's got like a gear-driven cams in it. It's got that cool whining sound. I like it. Let me mention this. This is important. It comes with tires and wheels that have inner tubes. And you think, well, what's the big deal about that? I mean, that's common, right? Well, here's the big thing on adventure bikes. If you get a flat With that, you got to rip the wheel off and change the tube. Oh my god, it is a pain in the butt, and if you don't have all the tools, it just sucks. So having tubeless tires, which is getting more and more common, you just plug it. Stick a plug in it, stick some CO2 bottles on it, air it up, and you're gone, dude. Probably take you 5 minutes. Now this bike here, my buddy John Day, he bought tubeless wheels and tires, and I'll show you a close-up of what those look like and how they do the spokes. You're like, how do you do tubeless when you have spokes? It's pretty ingenious, actually. But I wouldn't not buy the bike because it has inner tubes. Let's put it that way. And what a great bargain these bikes are. I mean, if you can find one for 9 grand, 10 grand, that's not a lot of money for quite a bit of a bike that you can do a lot with, if you ask me. Yeah, hear that? You could tell if this thing had an exhaust on it, it would just be like, yeah. I want to take this thing on the freeway and get it really up to speed, because when I commute, I do a lot of 85. I mean, everybody out here goes 85 miles an hour. So I want to be able to go 90 and have this thing feel good. So let's quit talking about it and get on the freeway and see how it feels. How the wind feels, how the vibration feels. Alright, so I'm about to get on the freeway here. Alright, let's go. Alright, so right now I'm doing 60, which ain't much. Let's look it up. And it feels really good, guys. Like, as good as a sport bike, just smooth. The wind coming off the fairing is not bad. I feel a little bit on my arms, which I like, cooling me off. But my head, not bobbing and weaving. Now, you do have a 6-gear, 6-speed gearbox, which is good. You know, it's not working really hard to go this fast. I don't know if that's right. The thing said I was going like 90 something, and it didn't feel like 90 something. But if it was legit, the bike is very stable. Front end is not, feeling weird at all. So that's a combination of, the bike's ergonomics and the tires and all that. Let's see if it's got to get up and go. Very good. I'm impressed. The motor is not working hard at all to go freeway speeds. RPM at 85 is around 5,000. If you want to get around somebody, just drop it down a gear or two. It's not like wow by any means, but it's good. Yeah, I could do this for a long ways, guys. Alright, let's get off here. I give it a double thumbs up on highway speeds, for sure. I mean, obviously, I didn't go real far on the highway. It's getting windy, it's getting noisy, it's getting hard to motovlog with all that racket. So, but you know what? High speeds, bike feels completely solid, completely stable. It's got enough power to get you out of trouble. It's got enough power to do higher speeds and without any trouble at all. It doesn't feel like I was going 100 and the motor felt like it had plenty left in it. But with these tires, why am I going to go way over 100 miles an hour? I'm not. So, but there's the handlebars don't vibrate. The vibration in my saddle, nothing. It's as smooth at high speed as it is at low speed, and that's pretty important because that's what these bikes are made for, going long distances. And you don't want to be vibrating and like, dude, my hands are tingling, my butt's going numb. Well, everybody's butt goes numb after a couple hours. But you notice there I stood up for a second. I wanted to feel how the bike feels standing up, because like I said, I like to stand up and stretch my legs and hurt, and it's good for your butt and get extra wind hitting my body to cool me down. What I like about the bike is it's really thin all through the gas tank. I mean, I'm leaning forward standing up, and I have all kinds of clearance because the gas tank's so thin. I really like that. And the handlebars are tall enough to where when you stand up, they feel good. Alright guys, check it out. We are up in Big Bear. I was about to just go back home after that first 45-minute test, and I'm like, you know what? Let's keep going, go somewhere cooler. And it's definitely cooler up here. About 100 degrees back home. Right now it's in the 80s. And look at these roads. Oh wow, this is a photo journalist dream road right here. Anyways, there's some more things I want to talk about, and one of them is positive, one of them's negative. Let's start with the negative first. I always like to end on a good note. So the negative is I do feel the tension in the throttle, the way it's a little bit of a stiffer pull than average. Yeah, I got a little bit of an ache in my hand. I'm like, what's the deal? So that was after the additional 45 minutes. I started feeling it, and I'm like, ah man, it's a bummer. I started using the cruise control. So yes, you can start to feel that. I'm gonna look, if I get this bike, I'm gonna look and see if there's a lighter spring alternative out there. Not a big deal. The positive is, it's a small thing it seems like, but these mirrors, I don't think I talked about the mirrors yet. They're fantastic. They don't vibrate. The image in the mirror is very still. They don't stick out past the handlebars, which is great for lane splitting, and I like the shape, kind of a nice sporty shape. I also wanted to bring the bike up here and feel it like going uphill, trying to accelerate past cars, see if it gets up and goes good. And I passed quite a few cars already, and it did fine, dude. Just drop it down a gear or two and it'll get right by them. Let me tell you something about being on an adventure bike. Like, I initially was just going to do that first 45-minute ride, take it home, jump in the pool, call it a day, and I'm like, no man, I'm on an adventure bike. I want to go on an adventure. And I just am enjoying this bike. It made me want to come up here, not just to do a test, not just to do a video for you guys, just to enjoy being on the bike, being up in the mountains. I love mountains, trees, all that, you know, get out of the city. When I retire and move, I might move up here or somewhere else like this that's, you know, got the pine trees and all that good stuff. I'm really liking the bike, dude. I'm actually leaning more and more toward this bike over the KTM 1290. I'm so glad I came up here. It's freaking awesome. Love the mountains, the trees, the cabins. It's so much cooler. I mean, this is what adventure riding is all about, getting away. I mean, this is literally like a whole different world from where I live, and it's only an hour away. It's awesome. Alright guys, I figured I'd finish this video up here in the mountains because it's beautiful and it's cool, and I had a great time on the bike. Let's recap my thoughts real quick on the bike. I have to say, the more I rode it, the more I like it. I'm starting to love it. The first thing I look for in a bike is the looks, and I really like the look of this bike. It doesn't have that adventure peak in the front like the BMW and some other bikes. It's kind of got that Dakar rally look, and I do like the nose on this bike. And they make a high fender kit for this to bring the fender up, which I would do if I had this bike. And overall, I really like it. I'm not a big fan of the blue, so I would change the graphics on this bike overall, because that's just what I do when I get my bikes. I personalize them to me. I personally think the brakes are fine. Yeah, it has Nissan brakes, but dude, they work great. I mean, it's an adventure bike, not a full-on sport bike doing track days. Plenty of braking power. You got the dual discs in the front. So I'm happy with the braking front and rear. I'm happy with the electronics. I'm not a huge electronics guy, but it's got enough for me. Ergonomically, the bike's super comfortable, especially like this aftermarket seat. All the hand controls are great. This thing going down the road, high speed, low speed, it is fantastic. I love it. Now, do I love it enough to buy it? I don't know yet. I'm getting to like it more and more by every mile. I do wish the motor had more grunt for me. Got plenty of grunt. I just like a little bit more. So if I got it, I would definitely look into punching some more performance out of that engine. But, you know, a lot of people might attack me for that because I know a lot of guys are like, well, if you don't like the engine, it's not the bike for you. Well, that's not, you know, who's to say if it's a bike for me or not, except for me. And I do, like every bike I buy, I always modify it to perform better anyway, so who cares, right? But dude, it's a great looking bike, man. I really like the way this thing looks coming at you. It's fantastic. So anyways, guys, I need to make a decision on a bike between, you know, maybe over the next week between this and the KTM 1290. This I'm hoping I can get for around 9,000. I know there's other ones out there for that. And the KTM's around 12,500. A lot more bike, but a bit more money. Let's hear your comments about this bike if you have one and you've got more experience on it, your thoughts on it. Anyways, guys, thanks for hanging out. See you guys in the next video. It looks like it's about to rain on me. I can even hear thunder. Can you hear that? Love that kind of weather. Peace.